This meeting is being recorded. Greetings and welcome, viewers. Before starting today's program, my mom will be initiating the second episode of Side Talks with an important quote. Over to you, Mom.
Thank you so much for your journey. So we have a special guest, and she's close to my heart, and she's more like soulmate kind of sister, and she's like I know her like past several years. She's a good role model for all. No gender basis as such, but especially to women. I'm so glad she is able to talk to us today, and she has created some quality time for us. So thank you so much, Shilpa ji. And before start, thank you so much, and our regards. So kind of you to join us today, though you have busy schedules. So I'm so happy for both of you, Karthik and Shilpa ji. So today's quote, actually we are starting with some special quote. It was long back, I think my uncle, he wrote it in my book, like in a small, earlier days we used to put some autograph kind of thing. So this is the quote. So he's the one who, something like a few lines he was mentioning about, and he wrote it. So it says, though difficult, try to lead a life with some ideals and principles. The achievements in this direction give you satisfaction of distinct personality. And I think after seeing this, definitely we have to, before start the process, we'll definitely read this quote. And this is so much we can correlate to Shilpaji's goals in her life. She has been balancing everything. So I thought it's not me. I think it's more like divine plan, that's what it is. And I'm so happy that at least now I have something to share, which is so precious with all of you, especially with you, Shilpaji. Thank you once again for creating time. Now I will virtually hand over the mic to you after Karthik gives you some introduction about you before your interview. Thank you so much. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much, Mom, for reading that quote and for the wonderful gestures about Shilpa Auntie. That's truly amazing. And this quote is very, very much reminded me of Shilpa Auntie when you first read it to me. So with that, I would like to thank you all for joining us on the second episode of Side Talks. Today we have with us Dr. Shilpa Buch. I will be giving a brief introduction on her before diving deep into the interview. Dr. Shilpa Buch is a professor and served as the vice chair for research at the University of Nebraska Medical Center in Omaha. She obtained her PhD in 1982 in microbiology from the Maharaja Sayaji Rao University, Baroda, India. Her research is focused on the effects of HIV and drugs abuse on the brain using animal models. She has a large research group and is a well-sought-after mentor for junior trainees, primarily women. She is dedicated to helping women succeed in the field of science and in personal life. She has published her works extensively and is a recipient of several awards. With that, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Buch, for joining us today.
Thank you very much, Sai Karthik and Lakshmi. I think this is a great, great endeavor that you guys are doing. I learned a lot from the last episode, and God bless you in doing this. So thank you again for inviting me. I'm really honored.
Thank you so much, Shilpa Auntie. It's such a great privilege to have you here today. So with that, I'll be, getting into the first question for today, which is centering around, the beginning of your journey, your childhood. Can you share some memorable experiences from your childhood that shaped who you are today, and any particular people or events that inspired you in those early years?
Yeah, so I think my childhood was in India, very middle-class family, but a very loving family. We were three sisters, and mom was working, dad was working. I think the ethics of hard work was instilled right from the start, and looking at mom and dad, how they made a life for us and brought us where we are. So I think it was a great experience. We were surrounded with families and neighbors and friends. So there was never a want of feeling lonely. I was a firstborn, so I definitely was high achiever. It was instilled in your DNA, I guess, from the birth. You have to be a doctor or an engineer. But anyway, so that was a good student, but very protected in a way, which did not serve me well. I think I wish I was more outgoing and learned to bike and fall down. I was not like that. I was a very quiet child. We were three sisters, and ours was an open house. One person comes, mom is cooking, the other person goes. It was never, she would bring in relatives' children to study because Baroda was a great place for education. So we've seen it all, small home, but everybody, there was a lot of love. And mom was generous, giving, and dad went along with mom. So I think we all knew that we have to share, and things would not be brought for us as little kids, but mom would bring it for the relatives' children. So it was always a generous thing I saw, and that has stayed with me. We lost a sister when she was 16, my younger one, and that made us even more tighter, that we understood what love is and warmth is of a family. So I think my journey as a child was privileged in a way with a lot of warmth and love. Not enough materialistic needs, but we never cared about it. And we grew up, and then, of course, chose the path of doing my profession. Shall I delve into that, how I got into where I am?
Yeah, actually, the next question actually dives into that. So I guess I'll read that real quick so that it gives you some thoughts, and then you can continue from there. So yeah, the next question was, what was your college experience like in India? And then later on, the transition to North America for your postdoc. And then were there like any professors or mentors during this period that guided you? So yeah, please continue your train of thought.
So definitely, I'll just digress a little that yes, I loved medicine. I wanted to go to medicine, and I missed it for 2 marks. India is a large country, and in the pre-med exams, they ask you some general knowledge questions, and I missed, and you cannot apply again. So it was a big blow. I was very devastated. To this day, my heart is in clinical medicine. But then what do you do next? So, okay, let me do bachelor's in science. Then let me do master's in, at that time, microbiology was coming up in Baroda. It was a very new thing and a very hard to find admission. So I got admission into microbiology. And then what? So you do PhD. So college experience was great. The master's program was the top in the country. Our mentor was one of the best, Hitler, but he taught us that you have to ask questions. You have to. So in India, getting that education, I felt very good and empowered in a way. And then, so college was good. Again, I met my fiance, husband there, who became my fiance and then husband. And it was sailing through. Everything was great. And then I got invited to, there was a course in India, 25 people out of all of Asia to be doing molecular biology. And I was lucky to be selected. So at that time, I'll tell you, I was so protected, I wouldn't travel alone. So my fiance at that time comes to drop me in the train, and we spent 3 weeks in Banaras, me with that course, and people from US had come to teach us molecular, which was new at that time, 1980s. And they brought equipment, and wonderful, wonderful time in Banaras Hindu University. And my husband at that, he stayed for a few days and then he went back. But in the meantime, he kept reading in the library and interacted and networked with all the scientists of Cold Spring Harbor, US. Now, he had finished his PhD, so he said, I'm looking for positions. Hey, networking, can I, you guys have known me. I've been here. Would it be okay to ask for a reference letter? So it goes to show that asking never hurts. At the most, the guys would have said no, but they said yes. So one of the guys, Ahmed Bukhari, said, I'll write you a letter. And he wrote, but in his letter, he wrote something about me. So instead of him, before him, I got an offer letter, although I had not applied. And I was like, because his mentor must have shown it to the dean. The dean had more money, and I got invited. So I had finished almost my PhD. So my advisor said, Shilpa, you can go. And we came to the US together after our PhDs to Canada, And my husband found a position. I found a position in Memorial University as postdocs. And within 6 months of coming, this person, brilliant scientist, Ahmed Bukhari, went jogging, fell down, and passed. So it goes to show how some people come in your life to change your life. And for me, that was Ahmed. He left a 6-month-old son. I still remember him very vividly. So that was the start of our journey and came to North America, and it was very different. The whole experience of being in a lab, it's not like an Indian lab. Mentors were harsh. Because my husband was in science, I had to move if he moved. So, several moves happened. So where my project is initiated, now he moves. So I have to drop that, start something new. So I really learned to take whatever came my way and make it work. That resilience started coming in from that stage. We moved to London, Ontario. We moved to Toronto. And Toronto, my work was really picking up at sick kids, clinicians were coming to the lab. We were working with them, teaching them things. Assistant professorship I got grants. I was working in the lung injury, and my husband gets a position in Kansas. And he tells me we are moving to Kansas. It was like a punch in the stomach. I said, no, I don't want to move. But then we moved. And then again, I was bored with the lab I was in, because in our profession, you don't have ready-made jobs. University has to advertise, and then you apply. And that doesn't happen. So then you grow from ground zero, you are rising. Okay. So I was an assistant professor in Toronto. I come back as a glorified instructor in a lung field. I wasn't happy. Then I knocked the doors of somebody who was doing HIV work. And after a lot of cajoling, I got in. And then I didn't look back. Started writing grants. It was very tough. I mean, the bosses and mentors I had were not easy. Now you can call those things as harassment, bullying. Even now, I think it exists, but those days it was very rampant. And I think that's what shaped me who I am. I used to be very quiet. Now, I mean, you cannot stop me from talking. But I think I realized that it's very hard for an immigrant, especially women, to make it to this level. And it still is. It's hard in science careers, even for white women to do well. So I think it's just the way the system is in academia. So I learned to grow myself, to be applying for grants nonstop, to keep working hard. And that's where I found a big difference in the two countries. But this country shaped me who I am by meeting with the wrong people sometimes.
Wow. That was a very unique journey. The thing is that, what pursued you towards academia was essentially, of course you did your PhD postdoc, and then you've actually experienced, the assistant professors, like you were on tenure track in Toronto, and then you had to come to Kansas, and then you kind of went back a bit. But then luckily, because of you were able to network and get into the right group and learn from your experience, and you were able to get into that HIV group. And ever since then, the rest was history. It was just amazing.
And then it didn't stop there. It didn't stop there, because when again I was asked by a person in Omaha to come to Omaha. Now I had risen from within in Kansas, not got my dues, although grants had come, papers were there. So it was a no-brainer. Now I was ready to fly. So I said, I'm going to go and see how I'll do. My husband didn't move. So it's been last 14 years now that I'm in Omaha. And I also have a passion now for mentoring the young people, because it's very hard journey in academia.
That's very true, but you're such a wonderful example. So I'll be moving on to the next question. So, what key experiences contributed to your growth from an assistant professor towards becoming a professor and then serving as a vice chair?
Plenty experiences. I mean, I think I've realized that our journey, and nobody teaches you about people management skills and things. You do well, the more you do better. And I don't want it to sound like it's all negative. I think people in the world that we are living in, you have more people that are threatened, that are not happy. You reach a point where you realize that it's not going to be, I can be better than most, but I'm never going to be there, that top, because there is always that, maybe we are in Midwest, I don't know. I find academia, so I still face those issues. and I'm very open about it. And I said we should not be taking any injustice. The journey has not been easy. Uh, People, but what is gratifying is that you train the people and build their careers. So we've had a lot of people in my lab because I didn't get it. I have trained them. Then they became postdocs, made them get papers. Now we give them position as instructor, push them to get assistant professor with us to so that they have comforted, protected time a little bit. Nobody's out to grab them and kill their careers. And these guys have become successful. We write multiple grants together. And now these guys are budding scientists. So that is gratifying about this job, that you mentor summer students come in, high school students. So the student, I don't know if you've seen the girl go viral, Shruti Kumar at Harvard. You should check her out.
I've heard about that. Yeah.
She was our summer student. And,
Oh, really? Wow.
yeah. So you see such smart kids, they come, they know nothing about science, but by 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they can give a great presentation. So you feel drop in the ocean you've done, but somewhere they will remember, and their name comes on the paper. It's for life. It's archived, right? So that's the gratifying part. The sad part is people are very toxic. You deal with all that, but it only makes you resilient and makes you say, I will not be like this.
Gotcha. That's very true. And then like kind of like, the main way to essentially it's also changing environment at times. Like, for example, if people aren't able to get opportunities in one place, even though they're keeping their 100% effort, it's always better to look externally. And then that new place could be the place for you to where they actually value your work, and then they make sure to give you like, the positions and the growth you deserve.
Totally.
True. And then moving on to the next question, like what are some of the most significant innovations or contributions you made during your journey, whether at like, University of Nebraska Medical Center or at KU Med or in Toronto?
So I think we are we have been pioneering how drugs of abuse such as opioids, which people take for pain. A lot of people have neuropathy and things. So constant painkillers, and if they are HIV infected, the brain is more at a problems, more cognitive and dysfunction of the brain happens. So we are the first ones using the macaque model with opioids and cocaine to show that there is so much of damage going on, inflammation going on, which leads to premature aging. I mean, there are other people doing it, but I think our science has gone more mechanistic to understand what is the pathways operating, be it inflammation, be it iron deficiencies. So I think those are the things that we take pride in, that we really go from cell culture to mouse model to monkey model to human samples. So we make a complete story about it. Some of our findings have been, looking at how we can intervene and do therapeutics. So we are currently at a very, not at the stage of translationally, but we are testing out some of the RNA therapeutics, just like the COVID virus. If can we do something to alter the changes in the brain and make it better. We also took pride in our work on only taking painkillers. If we give morphine to the mice, they get cognitive impairment. So people that are constantly taking painkillers, like cancer patients, they can have a lot of issues of the brain. So I think those things add, and science is, it takes years to get some discovery to the translational stage. So I think we are working actively towards it. We also are interested in the gut-brain axis, how most brain diseases start in the gut. And the gut is called the second brain. Why is that? Why? There are people doing experiments where you can take fecal matter transplant from the anxious mouse, put it in the brain of a normal mouse, and the normal mouse becomes anxious. So it's a very fascinating field of how the gut talks. So eating good food is very, very important.
That makes sense. And then, the thing is, especially when it comes to the brain, gut, and then, how, like, external factors such as, drugs, medications, and, sometimes, like, one thing I wondered is, like, some of these medications, sometimes like if people are like, oh, we're having this emotion and all that, like, doctors are just prescribing like, here, take this, and
Correct,
without
correct.
even thinking, like, and then they take it for many years, and in reality, more than actually helping them, it harms them, and it's almost like, it slowly kills your brain over time. And in reality, like, had it like an alternative approach would have been like, maybe they like, they tell do this activity or do that activity, and let's give it some time. And if it doesn't work, and they need to like do more investigation to figure out whether it's actually a neurological problem or whatever. And then
Absolutely.
only it would be better to, prescribe medicines, because those medicines, aren't they usually traditionally for people that actually have like, actual like, functional problems with those particular organs,
I
right?
mean, I think we are doing too much overrating the pain. Everywhere you go, they alert you. They say the pain from 1 to 10, what you are feeling. We don't need to do that. I mean, I think pain is also part of you have to experience it a little bit. Everything is not, you go to a dentist and you are loaded with codeine, not a good drug. So I think we are overprescribing, you're right, and we know nothing about drug-drug interaction. If you take one drug, and people are buying big, big bottles of Tylenol from Costco, that's always in the
Exactly.
bag, popping it in. That, along with something else you've taken, how it interacts, and your liver is getting burdened meanwhile. So I think you're right, it's becoming a polypharmacy, a system which is using a lot of medications. Instead of going out and saying, it's a nice day, let me meet a friend, let me just go out for a walk. And being alone and self analysis. So this moving to Omaha, I'm really pleased that I miss my family and husband, but I get so much time to think, to reflect, flirting with solitude. I just love it. I just love it.
That's nice to hear. Yeah, like, it's like, the points you brought up were perfect. And yeah, actually getting more into, kind of more of your personal and spiritual life. So like, how has your personal and spiritual life influenced your professional growth and leadership, as well as like, in the community, like
So
within your
yes,
personal circle or
I
whatever?
am, as your mom mentioned, I commute between two cities and life is very distractive, erratic. Half the things are here, half are there. But I think this being alone, and again, you meet people in the profession where, you do good, you want to be nice to people, but it backfires. Sometimes we've all seen that. It has happened to me. And it hurts that people, have done this to you and leave without a gratitude, and you were all committed to them. But I think that also is when there is a wound, there is room for the light to come in, as Rumi says. So I think that's the time you say, you know what? Does it really matter? I know what I have done. I really should not be caring. Why am I ruining my present because of what this person did? Yes, they hurt me. I'm going to change my mind, whether I do meditation, whether I read something nice, I'm going to divert my mind. So being alone has given me that chance to be more spiritual. And my mother is a very spiritual, not religious, but spiritual person. She will say, give from your plate to somebody who comes at the door. Construction workers are working, and she'll say, let me give them water. It's hot sun outside. You learn by watching osmosis, and you say that's where spirituality, I give credit to my mother because she is always a giver. And so I became religious because my mother-in-law is Sai Bhakt, and I got married, and that's when I got into Sai Baba and also brought my mom into the loop. But I think overall spirituality is what really attracts me. Be kind, be nice, be in peace with yourself and love yourself. So that's my journey. And I think I'm learning. I can't say I'm as evolved I would like to be, but these people who have hurt you give you a chance to look for yourself, to look within and say, I'm not going to be hurt because I know I'm good. You know, it's a lot of struggle with yourself, but it's gradually you are improving, I feel.
That's true. And the thing is, like, these sort of experiences makes you stronger at the end of the day, and it teaches you how to, like, deal with or avoid those situations altogether in the
Exactly.
future. And
Yes.
then, like, yeah. And then, even when it comes to dealing with people, of course, we have differences with them at that point in time. But over time, it'll either, like, like, decrease, or pretty much it's like you forget about it in a few years, that
Correct.
it's like, why did we even stress about it in the first place? Or otherwise, like, if those people are continuing to be the same way,
Stewing
better just
is
avoid
not,
them. Yeah.
yeah.
just avoid bad company.
And
That's
take
like
the
one of
high
the
road.
quotes I remember.
Take the high road, because
Exactly.
my peace of mind is more important to me.
Of course, yeah, because the key thing is that we always have to remember that we're like we have to be capable for ourselves before serving
True,
others. That's like one part
true.
I try to remember the most. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but yeah, so like moving on to the next question, which is more regarding like advice for the future generation. So like, what advice would you give to students aspiring to have a successful career in academia?
For academia, I would definitely say persistence and hard work. You cannot substitute without that. And you keep getting negative, papers get rejected, grants get rejected, but you have to say 24 hours to feel bad and then chin up and ready to fight. You cannot be sitting and moping on it and become depressed for a month, because newcomers, they feel bad. You take it personally. Oh, this reviewer wrote this and he doesn't like, but hey, that is life. You get on, move on, answer his questions, think of strategies to change. And so be resilient in science. You have to be very resilient. You have to be a lot of multitasking, prepare for what could come next ahead of time. So I think that whole time management and things in science, we are never taught those things, but you learn it on the job. So and then hard work, there is no substitute. And this is a profession that is 24/7, sadly. I know a previous speaker said that you stop at 6, come home and do not look. But I think this job, and my kids blame me, Mom, you can't be doing this all the time on holidays. But I feel that there are so many fires to put out that come on, that you really almost have to be ready to cover your back all the time. So I'm not discouraging people, but science requires thick skin and resilience and hard work.
Wow. It's very well put. Like, you even brought into a perspective which we didn't know, that like, of course, like we all think traditionally being in the lab means being there physically, but even like, when you're away from the lab, you have to think about it all the time and work on it. So,
Absolutely.
yeah, really wonderful. And then moving on to the last part of the interview. So we'll be doing our rapid fire round. So I'll be asking you a set of questions and then you can answer it. Yeah. So let's see. I'll be starting off with the first question. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
I think what my mother is always giving me, again, I bring her the law of karma. What goes around does come around. So be a good human, thought, deed, and action, I think. And sooner or later, at least you are at peace with yourself. You're not agitated. So I feel that somewhere there is a higher power that will take care of things. You have to do your stuff and not sweat the small things.
Gotcha. And then who is your biggest inspiration?
Again, I would say it's my mom. Her goodness, her calmness, her positivity has served her well. I mean, she has the downtrodden women would come. She had a daycare. She would have women, she'll say, you go to work, I'll take care. You better get to work. Somebody's husband has passed, she would give the courage. Uh, Serving them food, taking care of their children. I mean, I think she has given herself. And to me, she's leading a great life as a result. So I get inspired every time and keep on working. I mean, she's 86 now and she is not, we told her to stop her daycare. And every day she says, you guys didn't do a right thing. I want to do something. So I want to be like that. I don't necessarily want to do science, but I want to do something for the world. Maybe if I stop science, I may be committed to doing some voluntary work and helping somebody.
Very nice. And then what's your favorite hobby outside of work?
I'm ashamed to say no. Sorry. Oh, this is not good. No, I am developing. So I do go for long walks. I love to read. I love to socialize. I really love good conversations. So I like people that can inspire me. I have fun time with them, and nature walks. I think those are but I need to cultivate some better hobbies. That's my goal.
And I think like I've been like, definitely like, focusing on yourself, walking. It's truly, like, that's one thing which I really started, like, doing during once COVID started, and it's actually a very comforting activity, and you're able to exercise and as well as see nature around you.
It's I'm a work in progress, but I think it helps you to think and be creative when you're walking, calms your spirits. Yeah.
Very nice. And then, what's one thing you can't live without?
One thing I can't live without. Materialistic things I can do without, although I love to shop, but I don't care much about it. I think family, definitely, and friends. Those are things I cannot live without. Just need them in my life. People,
It's a very
I
well
think
said answer. Yeah,
people,
that's
not
very
things.
true.
Yeah.
And see, that's like, the perfect answer. Like, whenever I think of this question or I hear it, unfortunately, people are giving answers of materialistic things, but, this is probably the best and the answer that, everyone should give. So I'm so glad you gave that. People, family, friends, those are the
Yeah.
answers that
Ultimately, that's what matters. When you're 80 and on your lying down on the bed, you say, what did matter to me? It is the relationships, the memories you made, and the rest, how powerful I am or how great is never going to come to mind. How many papers I publish, who cares? So be a good person and enjoy people. Yeah.
exactly. And then what's your favorite travel destination?
Several, but I really feel I love Africa. Whenever I go there, and New Zealand was great. Whenever I go to Africa, I leave a piece of my heart. The warmth, the rawness, the organic, the beauty of the people around is just nature again. And same thing, New Zealand. I mean, the nature was just mind blowing. Not an inch of space you will find which is not worth looking at. So beautiful it is. So I think, and when people are in good nature surroundings, they become lively and happy people, I think, too. So I've seen some wonderful people in Africa. They don't have much, but the children are smiling and it's just incredible.
Wow, that's truly amazing because, like, the thing is, it makes us like, when we go to those sort of countries, they're happy with nothing. And even though us people in like the first world countries, we think we have everything in reality, but we think we have nothing, and we're always like, down in the mood for no
And we are
reason.
becoming more stressful generation. And every time when I come from outside and I have to take that flight and I land in the US, I'm like, where am I going? It gives you that because you become very pseudo. You wear a cloak. You are, I don't know how to describe it, but you are kind of stressed. Work and other
It
things.
almost exactly. It almost reminds me of like, every time, for example, I go to Puttaparthi, I always like, always on the way back, I go to the Bangalore airport, and
Yeah,
it's only a 1.5 hour drive, but when you enter the Bangalore airport, completely different environment. It's back to like,
correct. But yeah.
yeah. And then the final question of the rapid fire round is, what's your
Okay.
favorite quote?
Oh, lots of them. But lately, I've been enjoying Rumi a lot. And what I really like is when the world pushes you down to your knees, you are in a perfect position to pray. Um, Deep. You just go down and pray. It has a tremendous power. And I think the world is pushing you in that direction. So to me, that's a great quote for any life problems that come up. Yeah.
It's very well said. Is that like, it almost reminds me of that's the main point is that like, we have to be connected to the higher source, and we have to always remember that like, there's always someone above us, below us, within us, and around us that is they're listening to us. So
Absolutely. And it is another one that of the same guy is that uh, believe that in life, everything is rigged in your favor. If you go with that confidence, nothing is a problem anymore, right? And live in the moment. Yeah.
very true. Those are all amazing quotes, and it reminds us of how we should live our life and be joyful and happy at all moments.
Right.
So with that, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Shilpa Buch, for joining us today on the second episode of Sci Talks, and it
Thank
was
you.
such a wonderful experience.
You have been an amazing, amazing role model for a lot of people. Grown up well. Kudos to mom and dad for raising you and you continuing to do this, Sai Karthik. My blessings, love, and lot of good wishes. Thank you.
Thank you,
Saira.
thank you so much,
Saira.
Saira.